It's a bright afternoon. The sun hangs high in the sky, casting long shadows over the parking lot of a bustling supermarket. The world moves quickly here, people rushing in and out, carrying shopping bags, chatting on phones, and getting into their cars. But in the midst of all this, there's one person who doesn't quite belong. An old man, Henry, sits quietly on a weathered bench, his face worn by time and hardship. His clothes, once perhaps new and clean, are now ragged and faded. His hands tremble slightly and he seems to be lost in his thoughts, staring at the cracked pavement beneath him. No one pays him much attention. After all, he looks like one of those people you might cross paths with in the streets, ignored and overlooked as if they don't matter. But something today will change all that. As Henry sits in silence, a police car pulls up, its tires screeching on the asphalt. Out steps Officer Gray, a young officer in his 30s, who spots Henry immediately. His brow furrows as he approaches. "Hey," the officer calls out, his voice sharp, almost accusatory. "What are you doing here? Are you begging for money?" Henry doesn't respond at first. He just looks up at the officer, his eyes tired but steady. The officer steps closer, his tone growing more aggressive. "I said, are you begging here? You need to move along." A few bystanders, noticing the confrontation, begin to stop in their tracks. One woman pulls out her phone and starts recording, whispering to her friend, "Look at this guy, probably trying to scam people." The tension thickens. Henry's heart races, but his face remains calm. He's been through worse, far worse. The world has seen him as invisible for too long. But today he can feel the eyes on him. The weight of their judgment. Officer Gray steps even closer now, standing directly in front of Henry. He places his hand on his belt, ready to take action. The crowd has grown. People whisper, laugh quietly, and pull out their phones. Some mutter in disbelief, others in mockery. "You need to get up now," the officer commands. Henry slowly stands, his knees creaking under the effort. He looks the officer in the eyes, but says nothing. There's a long pause as the officer waits for Henry to move, but the old man simply stands there, unmoving. His silence is a stark contrast to the growing noise around him. Just then, a sudden voice breaks through the tension. "Stop," it cries, sharp and clear. A woman, Sophia, emerges from the crowd. Her elegant appearance stands in stark contrast to the chaos around her. She moves toward the officer with urgency, her eyes fixed on Henry, but there's something in her expression, something unfamiliar to the crowd. She walks directly up to Henry, places a hand on his shoulder, and looks up at the officer. "Dad," she says softly, her voice trembling. "Why are you here?" The crowd goes silent. The officer freezes, his hands still hovering over his belt. People glance at each other, confused, some still holding their phones. The atmosphere shifts, the air thick with disbelief. A few people start to realize this man, this so-called beggar, wasn't a beggar at all. He was someone's father. The shock of the moment hangs in the air like a heavy fog. For a few seconds, no one knows what to say. The sounds of the bustling parking lot seem to fade into the background, replaced by the hushed whispers of the onlookers. Sophia stands beside Henry, her hand still resting on his shoulder. She looks at the crowd, her gaze sharp, challenging anyone who dares to speak out. Her face is a mixture of frustration and sorrow, but there's a calmness in her that demands respect. The officer, caught off guard, stammers as he takes a step back. I didn't know." His voice falters. He glances down at Henry, then at Sophia. The crowd, still in disbelief, starts to murmur, exchanging glances. Some people begin to lower their phones, awkwardly stopping the video recordings they had started in the midst of the chaos. They had all assumed they knew the story, an old man, probably homeless, causing trouble. But this twist, this unexpected revelation, changes everything. Sophia gently guides Henry back to the bench, her eyes scanning the crowd. The whispers grow louder now, and a few curious onlookers move closer, still unsure of what just happened. One woman, a middle-aged bystander, steps forward, looking at Henry with judgment in her eyes. "You shouldn't have been sitting here like that," she says, as if somehow accusing Henry of causing this situation. "People don't just sit in public places like that. You should have said something." Sophia turns toward her, her expression hardening. "You think it's that simple?" she asks, her voice steady but tinged with anger. "You think he owes you an explanation? That you have the right to judge him like that?" The woman opens her mouth, but no words come out. Instead, she shrinks back, embarrassed by the force of Sophia's words. Henry remains silent, his face unreadable, but there's a flicker of something in his eyes, a flicker of recognition, perhaps even regret, but he doesn't voice it. He knows the truth now. He knows what people see when they look at him. He knows the assumptions, the judgments, the silence that surrounds him. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" one of the onlookers asks, now speaking directly to Henry. "Why didn't you just say who you were?" Sophia sits down next to Henry, her voice quieter now, but full of hurt. It's not always easy, she says, her tone softening. Sometimes people don't want to be seen. Or maybe they've lost the courage to speak up. She glances at Henry, then back at the crowd. You all think you know the story, don't you? She says, her voice carrying a sense of bitterness. You think you know him, think you know why he's here. But you don't. There's a shift in the air as the crowd listens, the weight of Sophia's words sinking in. The atmosphere has changed. The judgment is still there, but it's quieter now. The people who had been laughing, recording, and mocking Henry just moments ago now stand frozen in place, caught in the realization of their mistake. The bystanders shift uncomfortably, their curiosity shifting into something closer to guilt. Some of them, too embarrassed to look Henry in the eye, turn their gaze away. Others, realizing how wrong they were, start to quietly retreat, walking away with their heads down. Sophia's eyes scan the crowd and she lets out a breath. We're leaving, she says to Henry, standing up and extending a hand to him. Let's go home. Henry looks at her, his eyes soft, and for the first time in what seems like forever, he smiles. It's a weak smile, worn by years of regret, but it's genuine. As he takes her hand, he rises from the bench, a man who's been unseen for so long, finally seen by someone who matters. But as they walk away, the crowd remains and the echoes of their earlier judgments linger in the air, slowly fading into the background noise of everyday life. As Henry and Sophia walk away, the crowd slowly begins to dissipate. But the tension in the air still lingers, thick with disbelief. People continue to talk in hushed tones, still processing what just happened. Did you see that? One bystander whispers. That man was her father? Why didn't he say anything? But Sophia doesn't look back. She keeps walking, her hand firmly holding her father's. Henry's steps are slow, deliberate, but there's something different in his posture now, something that wasn't there just moments ago. The weight of the crowd's judgment still hangs heavy, but it feels more like a distant echo now. They reach the edge of the parking lot, and for a brief moment, everything is quiet. No one is watching them anymore, but the world still feels heavy. Henry's thoughts seem to race, and for a moment, he seems lost in the past, his eyes clouded with memories. Why did you come for me, Sophia? Henry asks, his voice barely above a whisper, as if unsure of his place in the world. Sophia stops and turns to face him. The emotion in her eyes is raw, but there's no hesitation in her voice. I've been looking for you, Dad, she says, her words soft but firm. I never stopped looking. I couldn't. Henry's heart skips a beat. I didn't think you'd want to see me, he murmurs, his voice breaking. I didn't think you'd forgive me. Sophia shakes her head, her expression filled with pain, but also with something else, understanding. I've been angry for so long, Dad. But I never stopped missing you. I never stopped wanting you back in my life. There's a long silence between them, the kind of silence that only exists when years of unresolved feelings hang in the air. The past isn't something that can be erased with a few words, but in this moment it feels like a door has finally opened. Henry swallows hard, the lump in his throat heavy. I'm so sorry, Sophia, he says, his voice breaking. I didn't know how to fix things. I didn't know how to come back. Sophia steps forward and embraces him, holding him tightly. It's okay, Dad. It's okay. We're going to figure this out. Together. As they stand there, locked in an emotional embrace, the moment seems to freeze in time. The chaos of the supermarket, the judgmental onlookers, the whispered words, they all fade away, replaced by the quiet, intimate bond between father and daughter. And then, just as they pull away from each other, a figure steps forward from the crowd. It's a man, older, his face familiar but lined with years of hardship. He walks up to them, hesitates for a moment, and then clears his throat. I didn't want to interrupt, the man says, his voice rough, but I saw what happened. And I think I owe you both an apology. Sophia looks at him, puzzled. Do I know you? She asks, her voice soft, unsure. The man's eyes flicker nervously, and he takes a deep breath. I'm your mother's brother, he says, his voice cracking slightly. I'm your uncle. Sophia stands frozen, her heart skipping a beat. The man she's never known, the man who was supposed to be there for her mother, has now stepped into her life. And with him comes a new revelation, one that neither she nor Henry could have predicted. The parking lot is quiet now, and the world feels like it's holding its breath. The man who revealed himself as Sophia's uncle, standing in front of them, brings with him a story long buried in the past. Sophia looks at him, the wheels of her mind spinning. You're my uncle, she repeats slowly, as if trying to make sense of the sudden turn of events. But how? I never knew about you. Henry, standing beside Sophia, stiffens. His gaze flickers to the ground as though something painful is welling up inside him. He opens his mouth to speak, but the words don't come. The weight of the past is too heavy, and it seems like it might crush him. I know this is a lot to take in, the man continues, his voice rough with emotion. But I've been keeping a secret for a long time. A secret that, until now, has never been shared. Sophia's eyes widen and Henry shifts his weight from one foot to the other, his hand gripping the edge of the bench. He looks at his daughter, his expression torn between guilt and regret. You see, the man says, lowering his voice, your mother, she never told you about me. She couldn't. She thought you'd hate her for it. Sophia's heart races. What are you talking about? She demands, taking a step forward. What secret? The man sighs deeply, his face a mixture of sorrow and shame. He looks at Henry, who meets his gaze with a mixture of pain and understanding. I was there when it all went wrong, the man says quietly. I was the one who left. I'm the one who abandoned my sister and you. Sophia blinks, confused and stunned. What do you mean? You left my mom. Henry finally speaks, his voice strained and hoarse. It wasn't just your uncle, Sophia, he says, his eyes filled with sorrow. It was me too. The words hang in the air, heavy and charged with history. Sophia's mind spins as she tries to piece together the fragments of her childhood she never understood. She had always known something was missing, but hearing these words feels like being hit with a tidal wave of truth. Your mother and I, Henry continues, his voice faltering, we made so many mistakes. I was lost. I didn't know how to be a father. I thought I was doing what was best by leaving, by staying away. I thought it would protect you both. But I was wrong. I failed you, Sophia. Tears begin to well up in Henry's eyes, and his face crumbles with emotion. I was a coward, Sophia, and I left you with a hole in your life that I can never fill. I'm sorry. Sophia stands frozen, her thoughts a whirlpool of confusion, anger, and disbelief. Why didn't you come back? Why didn't you fight for us? She whispers, her voice breaking. Henry looks at her, his gaze filled with deep regret. I tried to fix myself first. I thought I could make things right, but I never did. And when I finally realized I was too broken to be the man you needed, I stayed away. Sophia takes a step back, her mind spinning. Her breath is shallow, her chest tight with a mixture of hurt and disbelief. All these years? I thought you didn't care. I thought you didn't want me. Henry's voice cracks. I always cared, Sophia. I always wanted to come back. But I didn't know how. The scene lingers in silence for a moment, the weight of the years of abandonment hanging in the air like an oppressive cloud. The uncle, who had remained silent, looks at them both with sorrow in his eyes. I tried to get him to come back, he admits, his voice shaking. I tried to tell him that he was needed. But he was so deep in his own demons I couldn't reach him. And I couldn't do anything to help him heal. I couldn't save my sister and I couldn't save you. Sophia is quiet, processing everything. The pain of the past is sharp and the questions swirl in her mind. But amidst the chaos, there is one question that rises above all the others. Why now? Why are you telling me this now? Sophia asks, her voice filled with both confusion and desperation. Her uncle sighs deeply, running a hand through his hair. Because you deserve to know the truth, he says softly. You deserve to know why he's been gone all these years, why your mother had to carry the weight of everything on her own, and why it took so long for him to find his way back. Sophia looks at Henry, her heart a mess of emotions. Do you want to be in my life, Dad? She asks quietly. Henry's eyes meet hers, and for the first time in years, there is a flicker of hope in them. I do, he says, his voice steady, though filled with emotion. I want to be in your life, Sophia. I want to make up for the years I lost. The air between father and daughter feels charged with a new kind of energy, one that's laced with both tension and possibility. The words between them are slow to come, but there's no denying the weight of what has just been shared. The weight of years lost, of hearts broken, of a future that could have been, but now has a chance to be rebuilt. Sophia stands there, her arms crossed, as she gazes at her father. The hurt is still there, lingering beneath the surface, but it no longer feels like an insurmountable wall. The emotions she's carried for years, the anger, the betrayal, the loneliness, are all still fresh, but now they're tangled with a sense of understanding she never expected. You can't just waltz back into my life and expect everything to be okay, she says softly, but her voice is not filled with anger. It's filled with the exhaustion of years of waiting, of trying to piece together a life without him. I know, Henry replies, his voice heavy with regret. And I wouldn't blame you if you told me to leave. I wouldn't blame you for not wanting me here. For a moment, the silence between them is deafening. The world around them continues to move, oblivious to the emotional storm unfolding just a few feet away. The uncle, standing off to the side, watches them, his face filled with a quiet sorrow. He knows what they've both been through, and he knows the road ahead won't be easy. Sophia closes her eyes for a moment, her chest tight. I spent so many years imagining what I would say to you if I ever saw you again. I thought I'd have all the answers, all the right words. But now that you're here. Her voice falters and she looks away, trying to steady her emotions. Now that you're here, I don't even know what to feel. Henry takes a slow step toward her, his hands trembling slightly. I know I can never take back the years I missed, Sophia, he says, his voice filled with raw sincerity. But if you let me, I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make up for it. I'll do whatever it takes to show you that I love you. Sophia looks at him, and for the first time in so long, she sees him not just the man who left, but the man who has been broken, just like her. She sees the regret in his eyes, the same regret she's carried for years. I'm angry, she says, her voice shaking. I'm angry at you for leaving, at you for not coming back when you could have. I'm angry that I had to grow up without you, that I had to fill that hole in my heart with nothing. I know, Henry whispers. I'm sorry. I can't change the past, but I'll do everything in my power to make it right. For a long moment, neither of them speaks. It's as if they're both waiting for something, waiting for a sign, for the words that will make everything okay. But there are no perfect words. No easy solutions. Just the painful, honest truth that reconciliation is a process, not an instant fix. And then, slowly, tentatively, Sophia reaches out. She takes her father's hand, her fingers trembling just like his. There's a moment of stillness, and then she speaks, her voice softer this time. I don't know if I can forgive you yet, Dad, she admits, her eyes filled with both vulnerability and strength. But I'm willing to try. I'm willing to see if we can start over. Henry's heart swells with relief, his breath catching in his throat. He squeezes her hand, his voice barely a whisper. Thank you. Thank you for giving me a chance. The uncle, who has been quietly watching them, steps forward, his voice gentle. You both have a long road ahead of you. But you don't have to walk it alone. Family is the only thing that matters now. Sophia nods, her eyes still fixed on her father. I don't know what the future holds, but I know one thing for sure, we can't change the past. But we can try to build something better from here on out. Henry nods, his heart full of hope. For the first time in years, he believes that maybe, just maybe, he can make things right. As they walk toward the car, the past isn't forgotten, but it's no longer the anchor holding them down. It's the start of a new beginning, one that they'll have to fight for, but this time they'll fight together. The car ride is quiet, but it's a comfortable silence. The kind of silence that speaks of unspoken understanding, of a shared journey toward healing. The world outside the windows continues on, indifferent to the small but profound changes unfolding within the car. The noise of the city is replaced by the steady hum of the engine, the soft rustling of the wind, and the rhythm of Henry's breathing, slow and steady for the first time in years. Sophia sits beside him, her eyes fixed on the passing landscape. Her thoughts are a whirlwind of emotions. Anger still lingers, but now there's space for something else, something that had been buried deep within her for so long, hope. She glances at her father, who's sitting beside her, his hands resting on his lap. He's no longer the broken man who had abandoned her all those years ago. He's just her father, flawed, yes, but trying. And that's all she could ask for. The silence stretches, but it's no longer uncomfortable. It's a pause, a deep breath before the next step. I never thought this day would come, Sophia says quietly, her voice filled with a mixture of disbelief and awe. Henry turns his head toward her, his eyes soft. Neither did I. I thought I'd lost you forever. Sophia looks out the window again, her voice barely above a whisper. I thought I had lost you too. But I'm starting to believe maybe we can find each other again. Henry nods slowly, as if savoring her words. I'll do whatever it takes, Sophia. Whatever it takes to make it right. As they drive further into the city, their destination unknown, a sense of peace starts to settle between them. It's not the peace of having everything figured out, of everything being perfect. No, it's a different kind of peace, the peace of knowing that they have a chance. A second chance. The car pulls into the driveway of a small house. It's nothing grand, nothing flashy. Just a simple home with a front porch, an overgrown garden, and a rusty mailbox. But to Henry, it feels like the world. Because this is where his new beginning starts. Sophia steps out of the car first, her feet crunching on the gravel driveway. She turns back to her father, who's still sitting in the car, his hands trembling slightly as he reaches for the door handle. I don't know what comes next, Dad, she says, her voice steady but filled with uncertainty. But I'm here. And I'm willing to try. Henry nods, his heart swelling with emotion. He follows her slowly, walking toward the house, toward the life he should have been part of all along. As they stand at the door, ready to face the unknown, Sophia turns to him once more, her eyes filled with a quiet wisdom that only comes from experience. Sometimes, she says, her voice softer now, the greatest gift we can give ourselves is the ability to forgive. Not just others, but ourselves. Henry looks at her, his face full of gratitude. I've learned that the hard way. Together, they step into the house and the door closes softly behind them. The world outside continues on unchanged. But inside, something has shifted. The walls are no longer filled with silence and regret. They're filled with the quiet hum of new beginnings. And as the camera pulls away from the house, the voice of the narrator, Sophia, fills the space with a final reflection. Sometimes, the person we judge the hardest is the one who needs us the most. It's easy to make assumptions, to see the surface and think we know the story. But the truth is always deeper. It takes courage to look beyond the surface, to see the people we love for who they truly are. And it takes strength to forgive. The screen fades to black, leaving behind a single thought. In the end, we all have a chance at redemption. Sometimes, the greatest strength lies in the ability to forgive. Life is full of second chances, and it's never too late to rebuild relationships that were once lost. We are all flawed, but it's our willingness to understand, to reach out, and to heal that makes us human. Let's choose compassion, understanding, and love, for in the end, those are the things that bind us together. If you were moved by this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Karma Stories for more heartwarming and dramatic tales that will leave you reflecting on life's most important lessons.